Shockwaves are rippling across East Asia today. U.S. officials say Maduro was taken into custody in a raid, and hours later, North Korea launched missiles, according to South Korea's military. The launches mark Pyongyang's first missile test in 2 months, sending projectiles into the sea between the Koreas and Japan. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff says at least 2 ballistic missiles were detected. KCNA claims the test involved hypersonic missiles and says Kim Jong-un oversaw it. The timing, hours after a reported U.S. military operation in the Western Hemisphere, has analysts questioning whether Pyongyang is sending a message. This is the first North Korean missile test of 2026, and it comes at a moment of extraordinary global tension. The timing of these launches is significant. Just hours before the missiles were fired, the Pentagon says the mission, called Operation Absolute Resolve, ended with Maduro and Flores surrendering and being taken into U.S. custody. Reuters reports U.S. Special Forces, including Delta Force, and the CIA were involved, with airstrikes and helicopters used during the operation. U.S. authorities say Maduro was flown to New York to face federal charges tied to narco-terrorism and cocaine trafficking. Venezuelan officials called it a kidnapping and declared a state of emergency. The Venezuelan military called it imperial aggression and vowed to defend the nation. Then, hours later, North Korea launched missiles. No direct link between the events has been confirmed, but analysts say the timing is likely meant to send a signal. The juxtaposition is striking. As Washington demonstrates its military reach in one hemisphere, Pyongyang demonstrates its capabilities in another. Here are the technical details of the launch. South Korea's military says launches were detected around 7:50 a.m., and Japan says at least 2 missiles were fired. According to Japan's defense ministry, the first missile reached a maximum altitude of about 50 kilometers and flew approximately 900 kilometers. The second missile reached a maximum altitude of about 50 kilometers and flew approximately 950 kilometers. Both missiles fell outside Japan's exclusive economic zone in the Sea of Japan. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff detected irregular trajectories, prompting heightened analysis. Japan, the US, and South Korea are working closely together to assess the situation. The range of these missiles, 900 to 950 kilometers, is significant. This distance could reach US military bases in Japan. It demonstrates North Korea's ability to threaten key regional targets. The irregular trajectories detected are notable. Japan says the flight path may have been irregular. That can sometimes mean the missile tried to maneuver, which is treated as a serious warning sign. Analysis is ongoing. If confirmed as hypersonic missiles as KCNA claims, this would represent a significant capability. Hypersonic weapons travel at speeds exceeding Mach 5 and can maneuver during flight, making them difficult to intercept. North Korea has tested what it claims are hypersonic missiles before, though outside assessments vary on their actual capabilities. The ability to maneuver during flight complicates missile defense. Traditional ballistic missiles follow predictable trajectories. Maneuvering missiles can evade interceptors by changing course. This is why Japan's assessment of irregular flight paths is treated seriously. North Korea's state media framed the test as a demonstration. KCNA claims the test involved hypersonic missiles and says Kim Jong-un oversaw it to assess military operational capability and war deterrence. The report cited a recent geopolitical crisis, though it did not specifically mention Venezuela. Kim expressed great satisfaction with the results, according to state media. He reiterated his commitment to the unlimited and sustained development of North Korea's nuclear combat forces. Pyongyang frames such tests as defensive measures, reactions to what it perceives as external security threats. The reference to a geopolitical crisis is notable. While KCNA did not name Venezuela specifically, the timing suggests awareness of global events. North Korea monitors international developments closely. The phrase allows Pyongyang to frame its actions as responses to a volatile world, without directly linking to any single event. South Korea responded swiftly. Seoul convened an emergency security meeting following the launches. The South Korean military said it remains on heightened alert and is closely coordinating with the United States to monitor developments and respond to any potential provocations. South Korea urged Pyongyang to halt what it called provocative acts that violate United Nations Security Council resolutions. The launches come at a particularly sensitive moment, as South Korean President Lee Jae-myung begins a state visit to China. South Korea's defense posture remains robust. Seoul maintains one of the largest militaries in the region. The U.S.-South Korea alliance includes joint military exercises, intelligence sharing, and defense commitments. Any North Korean provocation triggers immediate coordination between Seoul and Washington. Japan has condemned the launches. According to Japan's defense ministry, North Korea's nuclear and missile development threatens the peace and stability of our country and the international community, and is absolutely unacceptable. Japan lodged a stern protest and strongly condemned North Korea through the embassy route in Beijing. The Ministry of Defense stated it will continue to make every effort to gather information, analyze, and conduct surveillance and monitoring of North Korea's military activities. Japan is working closely with the United States and other partners on this effort. Japan's concern is understandable. The missiles landed in the Sea of Japan, waters between the Korean peninsula and Japanese territory. While they fell outside Japan's exclusive economic zone, the trajectory puts Japanese interests at risk. Japan has invested heavily in missile defense systems precisely because of the North Korean threat. U.S. Indo-Pacific Command says the launches don't pose an immediate threat, and that Washington is consulting closely with allies. The U.S. maintains approximately 28,500 troops in South Korea. American military assets in Japan provide additional regional capability. The U.S.-South Korea alliance remains the foundation of deterrence against Pyongyang. Washington routinely condemns North Korean missile tests as violations of UN resolutions. The U.S. response is calibrated. By stating the launches don't pose an immediate threat, Washington avoids escalation while maintaining vigilance. The emphasis on consultation with allies, South Korea and Japan, demonstrates the multilateral approach to North Korean provocations. This coordination is essential for any potential response. The missile launches occurred just hours before a significant diplomatic event. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung arrived in Beijing on January 4th for a 4-day state visit. This is his first visit to China since taking office in June 2025. It is also the first visit by a South Korean leader to China in 7 years. Lee is scheduled to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping, Premier Li Qiang, and other senior officials. The focus of discussions includes economic ties, artificial intelligence, green energy, supply chains, and tourism. South Korea also hopes Beijing will help promote peace on the Korean peninsula. The 7-year gap between visits reflects strained relations. South Korea's deployment of the U.S. THAAD missile defense system angered Beijing. China imposed unofficial economic retaliation against South Korean businesses. This visit represents an attempt to repair those ties. Analysts say the missile launches may be sending a message to Beijing. Analysts say the timing could be deliberate, but intent can't be confirmed from the launches alone. Experts say Pyongyang may be signaling its objection to closer ties between China and South Korea. North Korea views any warming of China-South Korea relations with suspicion. China is widely seen as North Korea's key economic partner, though the exact level of dependence is debated. By launching missiles before the summit, Kim Jong-un may be reminding Beijing of Pyongyang's ability to disrupt regional stability. North Korea has leverage over China. Pyongyang's provocations create instability that Beijing must manage. A collapse of the North Korean regime would send refugees flooding into China. Kim Jong-un understands this dynamic. The missile launches serve as a reminder. North Korea cannot be ignored. Analysts note China's elevated welcome protocol for Lee Jae-myung signals interest in closer collaboration. The unusually short interval between the announcement and the visit suggests China is eager to boost economic ties with South Korea. This comes even as relations with Japan remain tense over Taiwan. For South Korea, the visit represents an opportunity to balance relations between Washington and Beijing. For China, it represents a chance to reduce South Korea's dependence on the U.S. alliance. North Korea's missile test complicates these calculations. China must now address the launches while hosting the South Korean president. Beijing will face questions about its influence over Pyongyang. The timing puts China in an awkward position. Xi Jinping must balance his relationship with Kim Jong-un against his desire for improved ties with Seoul. Kim Jong-un has recently ordered increased weapons production. According to reports, Kim ordered a doubling of tactical guided weapons production following multiple factory visits. This came ahead of the 9th Workers' Party Congress, expected in early 2026, which will outline major policy goals for the regime. The production increase suggests North Korea is building up its arsenal. Combined with the missile tests, this indicates an acceleration of military preparations. The factory visits are significant. Kim Jong-un personally inspecting weapons production demonstrates his priorities. North Korea's economy is under severe strain from sanctions, yet the regime continues to invest in military capabilities. This reflects Kim's belief that nuclear weapons and missiles are essential for regime survival. The ballistic missile launch follows another recent test. Days earlier, on December 28, 2025, North Korea test-fired 2 strategic long-range cruise missiles over the Yellow Sea. Kim Jong-un supervised the exercise, which was described as a demonstration of nuclear combat preparedness. KCNA reported that the cruise missiles remained airborne for more than 2 hours before accurately striking their designated targets at sea. And state media released footage showing the missiles being launched and impacting targets. Kim expressed great satisfaction and reiterated his commitment to developing North Korea's nuclear combat forces. The cruise missile test demonstrated different capabilities than the ballistic launches. Cruise missiles fly at lower altitudes and can maneuver around terrain. They are harder to detect by radar systems designed to track ballistic trajectories. The combination of both missile types shows North Korea's diverse arsenal. The distinction between cruise and ballistic missiles matters. UN resolutions focus on North Korea's ballistic missile activity. Cruise missile tests often draw condemnation, but the legal framing is not identical. However, security analysts caution that cruise missiles still pose a serious threat. Their precision and low-altitude flight profiles make them harder to detect and intercept. The combination of cruise and ballistic missile tests demonstrates North Korea's expanding arsenal. Ballistic missiles follow an arc through space before descending on their targets. Cruise missiles fly through the atmosphere, often hugging terrain. Both can carry nuclear warheads. North Korea's development of both types complicates regional defense planning. Defenders must prepare for threats from multiple directions and profiles. North Korea has also revealed progress on a significant naval project. Last week, KCNA published images of Kim Jong-un inspecting a large submarine under construction. North Korea claims it is an 8,700-ton nuclear-powered strategic guided missile submarine. Analysts say the stated tonnage would put it in the range of major modern attack submarines, but the specs can't be independently confirmed. It marks the first time Pyongyang has publicly revealed what it claims is a completed hull. Kim was accompanied by senior officials and his daughter Kim Joo-ae during the inspection. The submarine represents a new dimension of North Korean military power. Submarines can hide beneath the ocean surface. A submarine armed with nuclear missiles would give North Korea a second strike capability. Even if its land-based missiles were destroyed, a submarine at sea could retaliate. This is the logic of nuclear deterrence, ensuring that any attack would face devastating response. If operational, the submarine would significantly expand North Korea's capabilities. Pyongyang has suggested the vessel could eventually be equipped with nuclear-capable missiles. This would give North Korea a sea-based nuclear deterrent, making it harder to neutralize its nuclear arsenal in a first strike. Kim condemned South Korea's parallel submarine plans, labeling them an offensive act that North Korea must counter. The submarine represents a major step in North Korea's stated ambitions since 2021. Experts estimate sea trials could begin soon if KCNA's claims are accurate. The submarine program reflects North Korea's long-term strategic thinking. Building a nuclear-powered submarine requires significant technical expertise. The project has taken years to develop. Its unveiling now, alongside missile tests, demonstrates Pyongyang's commitment to expanding its deterrent. South Korea is also pursuing nuclear-powered submarines. Trump said he was giving South Korea the green light to pursue nuclear-powered submarines, but the details still depend on follow-on agreements. A government-wide task force was launched last week. South Korea's national security advisor said discussions are underway for an agreement that would allow Washington to supply nuclear fuel for military use. Kim Jong-un described South Korea's submarine plans as an offensive act that violates North Korea's security and maritime sovereignty. The parallel programs reflect the accelerating arms competition on the peninsula. This is a significant development in U.S. alliance policy. Nuclear-powered submarines require enriched uranium. Providing this fuel to South Korea would be a major commitment. It reflects the deepening security partnership between Washington and Seoul. The decision also sends a message to North Korea about U.S. resolve. The North Korean launches came hours after the reported U.S. operation in Venezuela. The Pentagon says the mission, called Operation Absolute Resolve, ended with Maduro and Flores surrendering and being taken into U.S. custody. Reuters reports U.S. Special Forces, including Delta Force, and the CIA were involved, with airstrikes and helicopters used during the operation. U.S. authorities say Maduro was flown to New York to face federal charges tied to narco-terrorism and cocaine trafficking. Venezuelan officials condemned the operation as a kidnapping and declared a state of emergency. The Venezuelan military called it imperial aggression. The Venezuela operation is unprecedented. No U.S. administration has previously captured a sitting foreign head of state in this manner. The operation demonstrates American military reach. For nations like North Korea, which have long viewed the U.S. as an existential threat, this is significant. North Korea has long framed U.S. military actions as aggression. Pyongyang views the U.S. as an existential threat, pointing to military exercises with South Korea, sanctions, and hostile rhetoric. The Venezuela operation, a U.S. military action to take a sitting head of state into custody, fits this narrative. While no direct link has been confirmed, the timing allows North Korea to point to U.S. actions as justification. KCNA's reference to a recent geopolitical crisis may allude to global tensions without specifically naming Venezuela. North Korean propaganda consistently portrays the U.S. as an aggressive power. The Venezuela operation provides material for this narrative. Pyongyang can argue that any country defying Washington faces military intervention. This reinforces North Korea's justification for nuclear weapons. The missiles launched hours after the Venezuela raid fit this messaging. The Korean peninsula remains on high alert. South Korea has heightened alerts and is coordinating closely with the United States. Japan is conducting surveillance and monitoring of North Korea's military activities. The missile launches, combined with submarine developments and production increases, signal Pyongyang's determination to expand its capabilities. Analysts say North Korea wants to demonstrate readiness to respond aggressively to any perceived threats. The security environment in Northeast Asia is increasingly tense. North Korea's nuclear and missile programs continue to advance. U.S. military presence in the region remains robust. China's role complicates any potential resolution. The risk of miscalculation or accident cannot be dismissed. The latest launches underscore the stalled state of diplomacy. Nuclear negotiations between the U.S. and North Korea collapsed in 2019 during Trump's first term. Despite historic summits, no agreement was reached on denuclearization or sanctions relief. Since then, North Korea has accelerated its weapons programs. The prospect of renewed talks remains uncertain. North Korea has signaled it will develop its arsenal regardless of diplomatic efforts. The 2019 Hanoi summit between Trump and Kim ended without agreement. Both sides blamed the other for the failure. Since then, North Korea has conducted numerous missile tests. The Biden administration made limited progress on engagement. With Trump back in office, the question is whether new negotiations are possible. North Korea has also strengthened ties with Russia. As Moscow faces isolation over Ukraine, it has turned to Pyongyang for military supplies. Reuters and other observers report North Korea has sent artillery ammunition and weapons to support Russia's war effort. In return, North Korea may receive technical assistance or economic support. This relationship reduces Pyongyang's dependence on China. The evolving alliance adds another dimension to regional tensions. The Russia-North Korea relationship is significant. Kim Jong-un visited Russia in 2023 and 2024. The meetings produced agreements on military cooperation. For Russia, North Korean ammunition supports its Ukraine campaign. For North Korea, Russian technology and support strengthen its military. This partnership concerns the United States and its allies. Multiple global flashpoints are colliding. In the Western Hemisphere, the U.S. says it has taken Venezuela's president into custody in an unprecedented military operation. In East Asia, North Korea is testing missiles and developing submarines. In Europe, the Russia-Ukraine war continues. These crises are interconnected through alliances, rivalries, and competing narratives about U.S. power. The world is more volatile than it has been in decades. The connections between these crises are real. Russia supports both Venezuela and North Korea. China backs Venezuela and maintains ties with Pyongyang. U.S. actions in one region affect perceptions in others. The international order is under strain. What does North Korea want from these tests? Analysts suggest several objectives. First, demonstrate capability, showing that Pyongyang can strike targets at significant range. Second, send messages to Washington, Beijing, Seoul, and Tokyo simultaneously. Third, domestic legitimacy. Kim Jong-un uses military achievements to consolidate power. Fourth, bargaining position, building leverage for any future negotiations. The tests serve multiple purposes at once. Kim Jong-un's domestic position depends on projecting strength. Military achievements are central to the regime's legitimacy. The tests also serve external purposes. They remind the world that North Korea cannot be ignored. They demonstrate capabilities that must be factored into any regional calculation. Multiple UN Security Council resolutions ban North Korea from ballistic missile tests. These resolutions were passed in response to North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. They include sanctions and restrictions on trade. However, enforcement has been limited. China and Russia have blocked stronger measures at the Security Council. North Korea continues to test missiles despite the prohibitions. The UN framework has failed to stop North Korea's programs. Sanctions have imposed costs but not changed behavior. The Security Council remains divided. This allows Pyongyang to proceed with minimal international consequence. The gap between resolutions and enforcement undermines the system. Experts offer analysis on what this test demonstrates. The 900 to 950 kilometer range could reach US bases in Japan. Japan says the flight path may have been irregular, which is treated as a serious warning sign. The timing shows North Korea's ability to respond to global events. The pattern, cruise missiles followed by ballistic missiles, shows a systematic testing program. North Korea is building a diverse arsenal capable of various scenarios. The systematic nature of testing is notable. North Korea is not conducting random tests. It is methodically developing and proving capabilities. Each test builds on previous ones. The program reflects long-term planning and significant resources. The upcoming Workers' Party Congress will be significant. Expected in early 2026, it will be the first in 5 years. Analysts say the meeting could signal new policy directions. This includes North Korea's stance toward the United States. It may also address the future of stalled nuclear negotiations. Kim Jong-un will likely outline goals for military and economic development. Party congresses are major events in North Korean politics. They set the agenda for years to come. The 2021 Congress established goals that guided subsequent policy. The upcoming meeting will reveal Kim's priorities. Military developments will likely feature prominently. Economic challenges will also demand attention. The long-term outlook for regional stability remains uncertain. North Korea's nuclear and missile programs continue to advance. South Korea and Japan are strengthening their own capabilities. The US maintains its alliance commitments. China's role as partner to Pyongyang creates complex dynamics. No resolution to the underlying tensions appears imminent. The Korean Peninsula has been divided since 1953. The armistice that ended fighting was never replaced by a peace treaty. Technically, a state of war continues. North Korea's nuclear weapons have changed the equation. Denuclearization seems increasingly unlikely. Managing the threat may be the realistic goal. Multiple crises are unfolding simultaneously. Hours after US officials say Maduro was taken into custody, North Korea fired ballistic missiles. At least 2 missiles flew 900 to 950 kilometers into the Sea of Japan, according to Japan's tracking. KCNA claims Kim Jong-un oversaw the test to assess military operational capability. South Korea convened an emergency security meeting. Japan lodged protests. US Indo-Pacific Command says the launches don't pose an immediate threat and is consulting with allies. The launches came just before South Korean President Lee Jae-myung's state visit to China, the first in 7 years. Analysts say the timing could be deliberate, but intent can't be confirmed from the launches alone. North Korea has also claimed progress on a nuclear-powered submarine and ordered doubled weapons production. Days earlier, cruise missiles were tested over the Yellow Sea. The timing following the reported Venezuela operation allows Pyongyang to frame its actions within a narrative of responding to US aggression. No direct link has been confirmed, but analysts say the timing is likely meant to send a signal. As the US demonstrates its reach in the Western Hemisphere, North Korea demonstrates its capabilities in East Asia. Global flashpoints are colliding, tensions are rising, the world is watching.